Now we good? You're good. So I'd like to call this planning commission meeting for February 24th, 2022 to please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please do a roll call of all board members.
Absolutely. Commissioner Salata
Here.
and Commissioner Bracy.
Here.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Here.
Commissioner Layton,
Here.
Commissioner Irons,
Present.
and Commission Chair.
So seems like all commissioners are present. Looks like the first thing on our agenda is election of officers for the 2022 year. Looks like we need a chair and vice chair, so I guess we can go ahead and start with chair. Any nominations or
I'd like to
discussion?
nominate Jacob Kane as chair.
Second that nomination.
I will not argue. So let's go ahead and, I guess,
Roll call vote.
roll call vote. Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Salata,
Yes.
Boardman, we missed Brad.
Yes.
Okay, I got her. Commissioner tonight, Commissioner Bracy,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Commissioner Layton,
Yes.
and Commissioner Irons,
Yes.
and Commission Chair Kane. You probably
I
can't vote for
abstain.
yourself.
Okay, so thank you guys. I think I'm going on my fifth year now, I think. So maybe next year somebody else can take it on, hopefully. So vice chair, any discussion or nominations or anybody have any interest in holding the chair or the vice chair's position?
I'm just gonna be your cheerleader here. We need a nomination.
All right, I'll nominate Zach Reese as vice chair.
Does anybody else want to do it?
I'll second it.
Well, there's been a motion by Commissioner Irons and a second from Commissioner Layton to nominate Reesky for vice chair position. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner tonight,
Yes.
Commissioner Salata,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Commissioner Layton,
Yes.
Commissioner Irons,
Yes.
and Commission Chair Kane.
Yes.
Okay. I put it abstain next to Commissioner Bracy because we're voting on him. So
Okay.
we're good.
So motion passes. So I guess before we get into old business and turn it over to Carla, I think everybody might know Carla, but Carla is a new face. I guess filling in for Barry as we experienced an untimely death of Barry Bile. I'm sure everybody's heard that by now, but sad to hear the news and not many people care about the community like Barry did. So sad to see him go. But maybe Carla can introduce herself and we can-
I can do that briefly, and then down later on the agenda, once we get past the old business, I have staff changes, so we can get into a little more depth. But Carl McLean, nice to meet you all. Interest in that, I've known Jacob for a number of years through my work previously with Morrow County. I was a planning director there until late in 2019. Been doing private consulting work for the last 2 years. Boardman was a client, now I'm an employee. It's been an interesting 10 or 12 days since I agreed to come on board to do this, which, just so everybody understands, I agreed to come and do this before before Barry passed. So we'll get into more of the changes later this evening before we all go home, but glad to be here. I really don't know the planning commissioners. I've been out of the loop for a couple of years, and so it's nice to meet you and see some of you in person, and I'll get to know the rest of you. And so, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I guess, moving into old business, I'll probably be turning this right back over to Carla again. If I do remember correctly, we had a public hearing on the night of
February 2nd.
February 2nd. And we went through the public hearing. I had abstained, so I'm still conducting the public hearing process, but I did abstain, so I'd like to remind everybody of that. And we closed the hearing, so all public testimony has been done, but we left the record open for a duration of 777, or that night, I think it was discussed 7 and possible additional 7. So let's just move right back into, I think the remainder is to deliberation by commissioners, and maybe there's some edits that Carl wants to go through.
So I would like to do a simple staff report and just get you up to speed so that you have an understanding of what has happened since February 2nd. Help you understand kind of what our staff recommendation is. And then that will be kind of a segue into your deliberation about this. So correct, you guys closed the hearing to testimony, oral testimony or activity that way, left the record open. During that open record period, so just as a reminder, this is for a transmission line. The focus tonight is on 2 properties. The properties are owned by the Tolmans. The original application was for zoning permit 21-066. It was submitted back on November 2nd, deemed complete November 3rd. Staff did a determination, which was completed on December 22nd. And on January 5th, the application was appealed by the Tolmans. So you held a hearing last time, the first hearing on the record for the appeal. At the close of that, what you had in front of you at that time was the application, the original staff report for that, and the original decision. What you now have, and some written testimony from the applicant and the appellant, as well as Kelly Doherty. After your hearing last time, you received additional written testimony from the appellant's attorney, who is Sarah Mitchell with the Kellington Law Group. You also received written testimony from Kelly Doherty, who has just been a participant in the process. She is not an appellant. And then the record, the applicant always has the opportunity for final say in any proceeding and or rebuttal. And so earlier this week, we did in the final 7 days receive the final submittal from Tommy Brooks representing Umatilla Electric. He's an attorney with Cable Houston. And when he submitted that, he also submitted an appendix, which is Appendix A, and was provided to the Planning Commission and posted to the website, I believe, on Tuesday. This week is kind of all running together, but that's my recollection at this particular moment. In conversations between myself and the city attorney, we asked the applicant to make some refinements to the Exhibit A findings. And we then also put together basically a decision sheet for the chair's signature. If you approve this the way we are recommending tonight, and it has the Exhibit A findings with some amendments to them. So one of the things we wanted to be really clear on is that we got the information in the Exhibit A that we would attach to this decision correct. So to make sure we have the right action item numbers, that it's zoning permit. The original zoning permit was I'm gonna get the number right. Zoning permit 21-066. And then the appeal is land use 22-01. And so those are the actions that are really in front of you tonight. And just because you didn't have it as long as you had the other items, I just wanted to bring to your attention the differences between the Exhibit A that was emailed to you 2 days ago and what we provided to you in your packet later this afternoon. There is added a number 16. So in the one that was sent to you earlier this week, it did not have item number 16. Oh, it had an item 16. It did not have this item 16.
This is in the exhibit.
This is in your Exhibit A. Okay, so this should be the very last item in your packet. If you look at your packet, you've got the findings at the beginning, you've got the Kelly Doherty letter, the Sarah Mitchell letter, you've got the Cable Houston letter with the Exhibit A, and then you've got a decision sheet, which is a single sheet.
But it's probably about 7 pages in.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it can be a bit confusing because there's Exhibit A, and then there's the decision sheet, and then there's another Exhibit A. So so the 16 is a new addition, and it comes from the staff findings that are at the front end of the packet. It's where it talks about what the actual lot setbacks, lot coverage, building height, design standards, pedestrian amenities, and the determination that there are no other standards that would be applicable. So then where 17 picks up, that's actually the old 16. And so from 16 on, or 17 on, everything's renumbered until you get to 28. So 28 in the new one. And at that point in time, it is new. So the original Appendix A that was sent out on Tuesday had 27 points to it. So we added 16 in the middle, that made it 28. So 28 on, 27 was removed, 28, well, 28 was not removed. 27 or 28 in the one from becomes the very last item. So added to this is 28, 29, 30, and 30. And those also come out of the staff report that was sent earlier. So those last several deal with how we interpret the term owner and talk about a on-point case from case law, Schrock Farms, I believe it was Schrock Farms versus ODOT. It was amazing to me how on point it was, because it talks about can somebody who has condemned be issued the permit? Yes, they can be based on this case law. And what is the timing for that? And when you look at the definition of owner in your local code, does it preclude that? And the case law, I think, is very clear that it does not preclude that. That if you precluded that, you'd never get anywhere. You'd be in a perpetual loop of never being able to get past the I own it, they condemned, I owned it, they condemned, who's the owner? They both have a right based on the circuit court decision. In this case specifically, UEC has a right to enter that property based on the circuit court order. So that's what the new 28 gets to. 29 kind of addresses the same thing about owner, and then again in number 30. So 28, 29, and 30 really address that issue around the circuit court determination that gives Umatilla Electric the right to enter the property based on the condemnation proceedings. Okay, and then 31, which was 27, is now 31, is based on the foregoing and the information in the record, the zoning permits for the subject properties and the SC zone are approved. So what you have before you this evening is the new information. Information from the appellant's attorney, information from Kelly Doherty, and final information from UEC, their attorney. And then you have a staff recommended decision based on that decision document and the appendix A. And I'm happy to answer any questions. So I know my approach to this process is a little bit different than what you're used to. I'm providing you a summary of kind of where we are, and I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to get into any details that you might want to. But please understand, I've been on this for like 2 weeks and I'm not all caught up. So I'm flying here, but I think I figured it out. And that would conclude my staff report again, unless there are any questions, Chair Kane.
Thank you, Carla. Any questions for Carla?
No, I had a chance to look over the information. Thank you for the information.
So I guess next step, if there's no questions for Carla, I think the commission needs to consider all information provided and deliberate and come to a conclusion.
Yeah, I think procedurally, again, I'm learning how you guys operate and run. I just want to make sure that, and may ask you to just take a motion to make sure that all of this information is included in the record so that we know that. So that would be the submittal from Kelly Doherty, the submittal from Sarah Mitchell on behalf of the appellant, and the submittal from Cable Houston.
So the motion would be presented would be just an understanding
Right,
that
just
all information has been entered into the record.
right, just to confirm that these 3 items are a part of the record of the proceeding of LU 21-01. Excuse me, yeah, LU 22-01.
So we have a motion of understanding that everything's been added to the record.
Sure. So I'll make a motion that all the information presented in the packet, the commissioners received electronically, and we have the paper in front of us from all the 3 parties. Sorry. names. We had one from Doherty, one from
Sarah Mitchell,
Sarah Mitchell,
representing the
and
appellant.
Mr. Brooks
Yes,
as well as the Exhibit A and Exhibit A findings with adjustments made.
actually, I would reserve that for your final decision motion.
Okay.
Yes.
But those communiques to be included as part of the record for this.
So we have a motion, and I hate to try to repeat everything, but to include all information that was presented from all 3 parties in what was presented tonight in our packet. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second. Roll call vote, please.
Great. So, Commissioner Tenike,
Yes.
Commissioner Salata,
Yes.
Commissioner Bracy,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Commissioner Layton,
Yes.
Commissioner Irons,
Yes.
and Commissioner Chair Kane.
And I understand.
That's right.
So motion carries. Now we can move into deliberations, right? Okay, so is there any additional questions or discussion for the appeal LU 22-001?
I don't have any more questions. Time to go through the information. information. I think the case law from Shaw Farms versus ODOT was pretty akin to what we're dealing with here.
I think you're gonna have to speak up so that, that Al can, record this.
I don't have any questions. Yeah, I felt the information provided summed it up quite nicely.
Any comments or discussion from any commission members off of Zoom?
Not for me, thank you.
So hearing none, I guess we're looking for a motion.
I'd like to make the motion that we deny appeal land use 2201 and approve the zoning permit 21066 and adopt the findings as attached as or in Exhibit A.
And do we have a second?
I would second that motion.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion to deny appeal LU 22-001 and approve zoning permit LP 21-066 by Commissioner Irons, and a second by Commissioner Brisky. All those in favor, roll call vote, please.
Time questions. 2 seconds. Okay. All right, so Commissioner Tenek,
Aye.
Commissioner Salata,
Aye.
Parisi,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Commissioner Layton,
Yes.
Commissioner Irons,
Yes.
and Commissioner Chair Kane, you're still abstaining, correct?
Okay. So motion carries 6 ayes and 1 abstention.
Thank you. And that concludes the business of that agenda item.
So do you want this signed by the end of the meeting?
Yeah, I'll let you sign. Well, I don't know, you want to handle your original, you want my original?
So we have nothing in new business on the agenda, but we do have some discussion items, some staffing changes, and I think Carla was going to do that.
So first I want to thank for all of you who attended for the action item. Thank you for your participation in this public process. It's very much appreciated. You're welcome to hang around and listen, or you can get back to the rest of your life this evening. Thank you.
I think some of those are high school students.
Are they?
For their,
I know
Oh.
Trinidad is.
They're participating for their civics class
yes.
participation. Wonderful. Okay, well, welcome. Okay. So yeah, on the staffing change, I've been doing some work for the city of Boardman as a consultant for a while. Not specifically in the planning arena, but just helping with some other things. And there was a decision that they needed some help with planning, and they asked me if I would be willing to kind of step in and help a little bit and relieve some pressure on the community development director. And Chief Stocco twisted my arm. I have the bruise. And I said yes, and so here I am. So it's been it changed really fast with Mary's passing last week. That was, I think we all took that pretty, it was just pretty hard, pretty startling that it happened so fast. Barry had a lot of balls in the air and he was juggling them, and we're going to try to keep them in the air as much as we can. And but I will guarantee you I will drop a few in this transition. And it was always really interesting talking with Barry because he came at planning from a public works perspective. And I'm not a public, I've not been a public works director. I would not want to be a public works director. I have been a planner for 20+ years, and I understand land use planning. I did this job for 18 years with Morrow County. And it's different doing urban planning than rural planning. Learning about what they call wet infrastructure is going to be a challenge, but I've been working at that a little bit the last couple of years. I've done some work for the city of Oregon. And so I'm figuring out the water and wastewater stuff, but I'm going to have to figure it out a little quicker. But, you know, we're just gonna keep working at it. So I know I'm gonna approach what I do in this chair different than what you're used to. And I'm happy to have that conversation with you about what works for you, what you need as commissioners. How, you know, how I deliver a staff report, how I prepare a staff report, it's gonna look different. I know it's gonna look different going forward. I would encourage you to stop by. I'm not here full time, I'm here half time, but you know, if I know you're coming, I'll make a point to be here, we can talk about it. When you see a staff report, if you've got questions, please reach out, you know, give me a call, email me. I'm happy to help you understand, you know, how I'm doing it different, and it's not because it's disrespectful to how it's been done in the past, it's just how we're gonna, you know, do it going forward. And someday I won't be here and somebody else is gonna do it, and they're gonna do it different too, so. But we need to make sure we're doing the right things, that we're, you know, checking off the legal boxes, are we doing the right things, and so, I'm happy to answer any questions. I want to get to know all of you. Meet some new friends in Boardman. And then I want to talk about what you want, and not tonight, but at some point in time, I want to talk about what don't you understand? What do you want to understand better? What kind of, you want training, and if so, what kind of training? And, you know, is Jacob doing a good job as a chair? And should we talk about what that really looks like? And again, I don't know how he does the chair. With a little bit of I've seen, I think he does a pretty good job. You know, if he's not here and Zach, if Zach has to step into the role, you know, do we need to have a really good formal speech format for him to follow? I mean, these are the things I don't know and that I need to know from you. And, you know, if you've got questions about what it's gonna look like or how we're gonna do it going forward, I want to be available to answer those questions. So anyway, I'll stop talking for a minute and let you guys just chime in with whatever you might have, or, yeah, I think additional changes are coming. I don't know what all those changes will be, but, you know, just stay tuned on that front, because I think it's gonna get fun.
I think that she will not be delivering your packets to you personally. Just saying.
Oh, is that, you got that right. If that's an expectation, it's May.
Well, but I think Barry did that so he could keep in contact with them personally, you know,
Yes,
kind of thing. So she will not be doing that. So if you have a question, give her a call and she'll be, you know, we'll make arrangements for her to meet with you. But there's going to be some of that kind of interaction that was in Barry's wheelhouse that he just liked to do. That it'll get more formal probably. So, just so you know.
yeah. And I'll make sure over time, you guys all have my cell phone number, so if you need to call me and I'm not at the city hall, you'll be able to get a hold of me. And, you know, I'm gonna get to where I have access to my email beyond my 20 hours here. So if something comes up, you can text me and say, I just sent you an email and you need to read it, and I'll do that.
And I've already got it, so if you guys need it, just let me know.
Here, we'll pass it around.
Yeah.
Thanks, it's gonna be a great addition, and I know we worked together for a long time, and I already poked her ear a little bit this afternoon. I know we've got some new commissioners, and a training session of Planning 101 would be an awesome thing to look forward to, so.
I was gonna say that would be great, because I think me and Sam and Ethan all came on, and I don't really feel like I know what my job expectation is. I
Okay,
feel like I've been kind of just doing it and learning as I go, but it would be nice to know what the basics are and kind of what's expected and how we should be doing things.
absolutely, and we will for sure cover that, absolutely. I will share with you now, we are not meeting in March. So there's nothing in the queue. Surprisingly, as crazy as I know it's been around here, there's like nothing right now in the queue that needs to come in front of the planning commission. So when I said yes to the gig, I also said, I'm going to South Dakota to see my grandkids in March. So I'm still going to South Dakota in March to see my grandkids. So it just falls, planning commission is right there. You know, it wouldn't make sense for me to call into a meeting with no action items from South Dakota. actually on the 16th, probably somewhere between here and South Dakota. So, but get ready for April. I don't know what all will be on the agenda, but whether we have an action item or not, we will meet in April. And we will begin to talk through what is my job and how do I do it? And I will share with you some of the changes I'm gonna be implementing and how we, from the process of how we bring in an application, how we make a staff report, how we get it, how we make decisions, how we work with you on understanding what the application is, so you know what your decision is. So we'll talk about those things. We won't get through all of that in April either, but we'll start the conversation.
Well, and I think you knew, commissioners have really, we've never had so many appeals and that kind of action items ever. So you've been exposed to things that normally you would not have been, which I would think makes it a little difficult for you to know, oh, what is my job as a planning person compared to all this other stuff that I've been asked to make judgments on and stuff. And with COVID, where we haven't met in person, that makes it even harder. So hopefully, by the end of March, we can start meeting in person, and that would be a pretty requirement, more or less.
I believe they announced today that masks go away on the 19th.
Yeah, that's March is what I saw, so, yeah.
So with that, it will be nice so Carla can do training when we're all here in the same room and can participate. So
Yeah.
looking forward to moving forward.
I just in the not quite yet 2 weeks I've been here, I know that there is a myriad of things that are just kind of in the queue. Things that, zoning permits that we need to approve, subdivisions that are in various phases of trying to construct. The big master plan community, we had a pre-construction meeting on that yesterday. So some of those decisions are behind you, but what I guess I want you to understand is that work continues for staff. So that doesn't go away. And so if you've got questions about, hey, I noticed they're starting to move dirt here or do that there, don't hesitate to bring those things up here as well. I don't know if Barry provided you like a quarterly update of kind of what was going on. We'll try to work that into the system as well. But bear with me, because there's just a lot to get my arms around. So, but I do want to be available to answer your questions. I do want you to feel comfortable with the job you're doing. That's really important, because what I will share a little bit more about my background is I started where you guys are. I mean, my first introduction to land use planning actually was as, I'm gonna pick on Mrs. Doherty. She's on the Zoom tonight. She is a member of the community, and she's chosen to participate because she wants to advocate for the things she believes in. And that's where I started. It's been 25 plus years ago. I got a letter in my mailbox saying they were gonna put a big subdivision on the property on the other side of the BPA easement from where I live in the city of Umatilla. And I went, not unless they address traffic, and not unless they do this, and not unless they do that. And I went to the planning commission and I voiced my concerns. And, when you live in a community and you're a part of it, that's your job. You should know what's going on, and you should participate, and you should go tell people what you think, and you should tell the local planning commission that you like this or don't like this, or you wish it worked differently. And sometimes we can answer those questions and sometimes we can't. Sometimes we can help them get to where they want to go. Sometimes we have to say no. But part of our job, my job, your job, is just to listen. So that's where I started. I started out with the whole, I don't like this, fix Power Line Road, and they didn't, and it's worse today than it's ever been. And those are the things that you don't want to see happen in your community. And so then I went from there to working in a planning department and worked my way up. And so, yeah, it's good to know the job. Do you have any questions from the folks on the, from Sim or Carla, or I'm not sure who all, I'm still learning names here, Ethan? Any questions from folks on the Zoom call?
I do have two questions. So first being, a while back, watching Planning Commission, we had talked about going through the codes and updating codes. That's something I would like to see done. And we talked about doing they talked about doing a workshop to do that. I would like to see that done in the future. Second statement or question, on emails, is there a way that we can get city emails? So not everything's going to our personal emails, or getting lost, stuff like that. That's a question.
So, on the first one, I know that a code update is, something that's very much needed and desired. And I think it is probably gonna be near the top of my list in the short term. And we're gonna figure out how to work that through and get it done. On the second one, I'm gonna plead the fifth, but I think it's something we can work on. I think you raised a really good question there, real good. Yeah, so how do we best communicate with you? I'm still learning what city process is, but I will at this moment, since you brought up email, I will really encourage you not to reply all. Please, don't reply all. If you get the packet and you're reading through it and you've got a question, we cannot hold a public meeting via email, so please do not reply all. I haven't seen that yet, so I'm guessing you guys have been well trained on that front at least. So we'll make sure we keep that in line, but yeah, the chief shaked his head yes, even to that second question, so we'll take that on and see what we can do about it.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
I look forward to meeting you in person, Carla, and have some additional questions of my own. But yeah, hopefully next meeting we could all be in person and yeah, talk about some of these things. And like Ethan said, I remember speaking about that code update. And so yeah, something that is very needed. So I'm looking forward to working on that as well. But thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and we can talk about how we both spell our first names.
Right?
Yeah, I'm a C, you're a K, it's all right. So I don't know if there's anything else under staffing change to discuss. I believe we have somebody who wants to make a public comment tonight.
Okay. Yeah, if there's no other questions or comments, we can go ahead and move into the closing comments and audience participation part of the agenda. So I guess at this time, is there anybody who'd like to add any closing comments or participate from the audience?
As I understand it, Ed is Ed Glenn, and he had something he wanted, am I remembering that right? He had something he wanted to share this evening, so. Ed, if you want to unmute yourself?
And you're still muted, so we're not hearing anything if you're trying to say anything.
Do you know what it was in reference to, Jen? No, he just shared. Ed, if you're talking, you're muted, if you want to unmute yourself.
Is there anybody else that'd like to add anything from the audience? I guess hearing none, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
I'm sure.